Yo-ho everybody, and welcome to another edition of Yinzer on Hockey. Before we begin, make sure you go down below, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, click on the little bell so you get all the notifications, stay up to date on all the current goings-on around the off-season and the trade deadline, or not the trade deadline, the draft, free agency, everything. We discuss all that thing. We discuss all 31 NHL teams. So if you like the NHL like I do, make sure you click like and subscribe. And follow me on all my social medias, also listed in the description below. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. We are going to do my initial power rankings. This is before the draft, free agency, everything. So this is my power rankings based on how the teams finished the season and what their free agency outlook, as well as notable free agents for each team, who they may lose and how that may change and affect their rankings. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. My number 31 ranked team is the Vancouver Canucks. They lost both Daniel and Henrik Sedin in the offseason. The goaltending was obviously a little bit lackluster, the Brock Besser injury, so they've got a lot of recovering to do going into the 2018-2019 season. Number 30 is the Buffalo Sabres. This ranking will probably change after the draft and free agency as well, because they have a lot of available cap space and a lot of money to spend that could help improve their team. Number 29 is the Ottawa Senators. Not a lot going on in free agency, but there is the speculation of what happens with Erik Karlsson moving forward. Number 28 for me is the Detroit Red Wings. The Detroit Red Wings are still in a rather precarious situation with their salary cap, and they don't have a lot of very good players right now to show for the cap, the money that they're spending against the salary cap. Number 27 for me is the Montreal Canadiens. They are kind of a rebuild in progress, so they have a lot of talent on their roster, but they have a few bad contracts. Got them in a little bit of a situation with the cap. The big story following the Montreal Canadiens this season is whether or not they're able to move on from Max Pacioretty. Number 26 is the Arizona Coyotes. This one was a tough one for me to rank because towards the end of the season, Arizona was one of the most exciting teams to watch. This, to me, proves the difference between the NHL and the NBA as well as the NFL. Hockey teams do not tank. There's a few teams that may have tanked in the past, but Arizona never give up on the season. Probably cost themselves a few percentage points towards the NHL draft lottery by the way they played down the stretch. So I really like Arizona moving forward. Number 25 for me is the New York Rangers. The New York Rangers, they announced their intent at the trade deadline that they're going to retool/rebuild, and I think that was pretty evident with the moves they made at the deadline, acquiring a ton of draft picks for expiring contracts. They did very well at the trade deadline to leverage current assets for future benefits. So I could definitely see the Rangers climbing up this ranking just a little bit over the next few weeks with the draft and free agency. Number 24 for me is the Carolina Hurricanes. Not as bad off as the teams below them as far as where they fall in these rankings. I think they do have some talent on their roster. They have a lot of skill. Goaltending is going to be a big question mark for them with the expiring contract of Cam Ward. So, what they do there, a couple of big trade speculations with Justin Falk, Jeff Skinner, even the possibility of moving Noah Hannafin. So a lot to watch and look forward to with the Carolina offseason. Number 23, the New York Islanders. They are only this low with the speculation that John Tavares possibly walks out the door. If John Tavares walks, they may be this low. They may be even lower if John Tavares does not re-sign. So that'll be an interesting situation to watch. But if Tavares does walk, there is a lot of money available for the Islanders to spend to help rebuild their team moving forward. Number 22 for me is the Calgary Flames. Kind of a little bit of a disappointment last year. I think a lot of people had speculated that they had finally turned the corner when they made the playoffs the year before, so maybe they can get back there, a couple of pieces away, maybe a few defensemen, and possibly a goaltender might help push Calgary over the top, all depending on what they do with Mike Smith. Number 21 for me, the Florida Panthers. It's really hard to rank Florida this low because I think if you had a Riley Smith and you had a Jonathan Marchessault on your team this year, the Florida Panthers, I think, are almost a lock for the playoffs this year. And what would Vegas be without those players on their roster? So a couple of interesting decisions for Florida to make to help retool this team moving forward. And we'll discuss more of that in my off-season reset videos, which I'm beginning the research and the process of developing those videos, and those will be coming along shortly. Number 20 for me is the Chicago Blackhawks, and to me, I don't think Chicago was one or two pieces away from being back to their former glory days. I think they have a lot of work to redo to get back to where they were, and I think it starts with letting go of yesteryear. This is not the 2010, 2013, 2015 seasons anymore. It's not even the same league as it was in those years. Speed, skill, transition game, all more important, and Chicago needs to build a team that is more adapt to that style of hockey. A couple of bad contracts that they're still sitting on. I'm not going to say that the Kane and Tays contracts are overtly bad, but they might be a little bit more than what you bargained for when you signed them initially. Number 19 for me is the Anaheim Ducks, and I think the reason that they are this low is they have an aging roster. Their window is slowly closing, and now you have the Ryan Kessler injury on top of that. He is suspected to miss all of 2018, 2019, so that's going to be a big hit. Because obviously you're going to be able to hide some of that salary on the long-term injured reserve, but it still puts you in a tough spot as to how you fill that void that he's gone, not only from his production standpoint, but also his leadership role that he plays within that roster. So that's something they're going to have to look forward to. Number 18 is the Dallas Stars. I think the Dallas Stars were very close to being a playoff team last year. They were in the final week. They were right there in the mix. So we'll see what they do moving forward. New head coach in place with Jim Montgomery coming from the college ranks in. Let him get his system put in place. See how the players adapt to him and how they respond to his coaching style. I think the Dallas Stars are going to steadily climb up the power rankings as the season progresses. Number 17 for me is the Colorado Avalanche. Colorado is an interesting team on this list as well at this ranking because they did make the playoffs. They were one of the top 16 teams in the NHL as far as the final regular season rankings go. Had a great series with Nashville, kind of gave them all they bargained for. So they will continue to develop and be a threat as their younger players come of age. Can Nathan McKinnon repeat the season that he just had? Ristolainen. He's a guy that kind of developed a bit this year, and he grew into a great role there. Hopefully their goaltending situation gets hashed out. Varlamov getting healthy will be a key off-season addition for them in a way, just by having him back on the roster. Would be interesting to see how that series played out with a healthy Varlamov against Nashville. That could have been even more exciting than it was. To me, let's see where we at. Number 16 is the St. Louis Blues. They did miss the playoff by 1 point. Final day of the regular season, there was that kind of play-in game between St. Louis and Colorado. And I think St. Louis, they are kind of the same team every year. You know, they're right there, skirting with the edge of the playoffs or barely getting into the playoffs, and then disappointing their fan base in the first round. So we'll see what changes they make to try and to get to that next level. Pietrangelo is a great player, and I would like to see them not, waste the prime of his career. I'd like to see St. Louis make another deep playoff run, maybe even get back to the finals, and push for that next level. 15 for me is the Edmonton Oilers. I know a lot of people are going to look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, oh, this team was terrible this year, 78 points, missed the playoffs. They still have Connor McDavid, a lot of other young players. Leon Draisaitl obviously was a little bit of a disappointment this year, and he should be able to bounce back. I look for Edmonton to be a playoff contender next year. New coaching staff kind of in place. They did keep their head coach, but they added some guys behind him with NHL experience, who is going to put a little bit of pressure on him to be a better head coach, because all the coaches that they hired have NHL head coaching experience, and now they're assistant head coaches. So, now you got to be kind of looking over your shoulder. Is that guy here to help me coach this team, or is that guy here to take my job? So that's something they're going to have to consider. Number 14, Minnesota Wild. I liked everything about the Minnesota Wild this year. They kind of drew a short straw getting Winnipeg in the first round. Probably going to lose Matt Cullen to retirement. So they'll lose that veteran leadership, that veteran presence, as well as a great fourth line center. So they'll have to replace somebody like that. And some other key pieces to look at. Where is Ryan Suter's health going forward? Where is Parise's health going forward? And are they able to recover and get back and be ready for the start of next season? Number 13 is the Los Angeles Kings. And kind of like this 13 to 10 slot for me, almost dead even. The Los Angeles Kings were a great team. And they played really well in the playoffs, outside of the lack of offensive production, and I think that's going to be one of the key things that they need to address moving forward, is finding some scoring, because Jonathan Quick did everything short of a holy miracle to keep them in that series with Vegas, and I think you need to get him some help. Anze Kopitar had a career year this year. He was great, Hart Trophy finalist. Unfortunately, a couple of other really good deserving candidates in the Hart Trophy race that's probably going to keep Anze Kopitar from winning that award. Let's see, number 12, the New Jersey Devils. Speaking of that Hart Trophy award, here's your Hart Trophy winner, Taylor Hall. He is probably far and away the best candidate for this award. As well as their goaltending was amazing. They lacked a little bit in the playoffs. They couldn't get that, but they faced an offensive juggernaut in the Tampa Bay Lightning. I like where New Jersey's at. Possibly, get an upgrade at the defense position, and they're ready to go next year. And it's amazing that just a year ago, everybody was talking about drafting Nico Hischier number 1, and how long the rebuild process was going to take for New Jersey. I'm not saying the rebuild is complete, but it's definitely in the latter stages of the rebuild. This team is ready to compete right now. Let's see where we're at. Number 11, Columbus. Only minor tweaks and changes to be made to Columbus to make them a competitive team moving forward. Had a great year, back-to-back playoff performances. Kind of retooled their blue line a little bit. Looks like Ian Cole's probably going to re-sign. Jack Johnson's probably going to move on, but, That's neither here nor there. He's replaceable, as you've seen throughout the year. He was scratched for a large portion of the year, so I think Columbus will be just fine. Getting a competent backup goaltender that threatens Sergei Bobrovsky, that threatens his starting job in the playoffs, forces him to find that next level in the playoffs. That is going to be an important story, something important for them to address in the offseason. Bobrovsky cannot be that comfortable going into the playoffs and never fearing for his job, or else you're going to continue to get the same playoff Bobrovsky that you've gotten in years past. And for them to take the next step, big deal for them is to get the best out of Bobrovsky in the playoffs. Number 10, the Philadelphia Flyers. This team is also one that is 100% geared to win now. Also, they drafted number 2 in the draft last year with Nolan Patrick. This is a team that far exceeded expectations, and they look like they are ready to win now. I commend everything that Dave Haxtell did, from moving Giroux from center to a wing position. He played so much better as a winger than he did as a center iceman. Perfect fit for him. Gostisbehere came into his own. Couturier had a career year. Just getting the goaltending situation solidified. Just bridge that gap till Carter Hart can get there, and you are ready to go in Philadelphia. This is a team that is going to be competing for the Stanley Cup within the next 2 to 3 years, if not this year, if the cards fall right for them. Number 9, San Jose Sharks. Obviously, veteran team, really poised to make deep runs in the playoffs. But how much longer is that veteran core in place, and how much longer are they built to the level that they can compete and win now? Joe Thornton, unrestricted free agent. Obviously, that's something they're going to have to address. He's spoken at length about coming back and being probably on a team-friendly deal. I wouldn't say league minimum, but he's definitely going to be on a friendly team deal that gets them back. They signed Evander Kane long-term. Argue up, down, or indifferent for how you feel about that contract. But it was the right move for San Jose, because James Van Riemsdyk is probably the closest comparison to Evander Kane. He's going to be sought after by everybody. He's going to get $8.5 million, since Kane got his contract at about $7 million. So, there wasn't a better winger on the market for San Jose to go after other than James Van Riemsdyk. They didn't feel they had a legitimate shot, so why let Evander Kane walk when you have a chance to sign him right now? And I think it was the right move for them. Excuse me. Okay, so number 8 is the Toronto Maple Leafs. They obviously have quite a few things to address in the offseason. James Van Riemsdyk, Tyler Bozak, a few other notable free agents for them to look at re-signing. But I think they will get the pieces in place that they need. Obviously, their AHL affiliate is playing for the Calder Cup right now. I believe they have a 3-2 series lead over the Texas Stars. So they have a lot of prospects in place that are going to be coming up and making an immediate impact with this Toronto franchise. So I don't think... I think Van Riemsdyk is going to be the hard one to replace, because that's a lot of goals that's going to be walking out the door. I'm sure Toronto is working with his people, trying to find something to work out to get him re-signed. I don't know if Toronto is able to make the numbers work with the cap situation they have right now. And so that's something they'll have to address. But other than that, they still have a great team in place, and they are ready to go and still be a competitive team and be competing for a Stanley Cup. Number 7, Vegas Golden Knights. This isn't a knock on them. I still believe that they did slightly overachieve. Well, slightly, that's understating. They overachieved by a lot this year. Every single player, top to bottom, had a career year on their roster. Even a guy that's been in the league for 14 years in Marc-Andre Fleury had a career year this year. Is that a replicable performance? unlikely. Do I think they fall completely off the map? No. They have tons of cap space to go out and get players to fill voids and needs that they have to be able to address. Every single big name free agent will obviously be linked to Vegas because of the cap space, because of the allure of playing in Vegas, and the fact that they went to the Stanley Cup Finals this year. Obviously, that is a team built for long-term success, and I think they'll be back in the playoff picture next year. Maybe they don't win the Pacific because all of California is going to be a competitive, contenders for the Pacific Division, and we'll see, where Vegas falls in that. But I have them number 7 on my current power rankings, and it's possible they can move up or down depending on how the offseason plays out. Number 6 for me is the Pittsburgh Penguins. Obviously, I'm a diehard Penguins fan. You can see in the background. I'm not sure how to assess where the Penguins finish the season and where they go next season. Most of the team will be returning. In the format was, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Was it just fatigue? Is an off-season of rest going to help them moving forward? Or do you need to shake up the roster to, get different results? We'll see how Jim Rutherford addresses that moving forward. But you still have the big 3 in place: Crosby, Malkin, Kessel. Those guys are obviously very talented in the roles that they play in that team. Chris Letang, maybe a full offseason of rest and recuperation will help him. And maybe he gets back to that elite tier of defensemen. I currently don't view him as an elite defenseman. I view him as a really good defenseman. So we'll see what his status is coming back next year. Number 5 for me is the Washington Capitals, your Stanley Cup champions, 2018. Congratulations to them, by the way. I have yet to make a video on that. A lot of things coming together for the channel right now, a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on. So, but yeah, it was great to see the Washington Capitals win. Great to see Alexander Ovechkin hoist the Stanley Cup. Great for hockey, great for Ovechkin, great for that organization. A lot of stuff to dissect with the Washington Capitals, though. You got John Carlson, unrestricted free agent. Obviously, he's going to be demanding a king's ransom to sign anywhere. You're looking $8.5-9 million for a guy like Carlson. Barry Trotz is not signed as a head coach right now, so you'll have to wait and see in the coming days as to whether or not Washington is able to re-sign Barry Trotz. He is a guy that may be linked to the New York Islanders head coaching position. So those are 2 interesting names to address that's going to need addressed in order for Washington to sustain this level, to get back to the Stanley Cup. Those are core guys that you really need in place. So it'll be interesting to see what Washington does to moving forward. Number 4 is the Boston Bruins. This is a team very young, energetic, athletic. Excuse me. They're a team that's built to compete now. Obviously, you're going to lose probably Rick Nash in free agency. You may lose Riley Nash, a couple of other guys that were brought in at the deadline. But none of them are core integral pieces. They have their core signed for long term and will be ready to compete for years to come. Be interesting to see whether or not they try to look and move some of those pieces just to adjust the chemistry of the team. Is Marchand a guy that you want on your roster moving forward with all the antics and suspensions and everything? I don't think Boston moves on from him. I think they really like him in Boston. He's a guy that you take the good with the bad, and this is what you get with Brad Marchand. Number 3 on my rankings is the Nashville Predators. President's Trophy winning team this year. Ousted by the Winnipeg Jets in the second round. Still a very good team. Everything's probably going to come back in pretty much its exact form, and you will see pretty much the same exact team on the ice next year that you saw this year. Sans Mike Fisher, who has retired again, and you'll see a lot of good things from Nashville next year, and they will be right back to competing for President's Trophy, conference title, and they'll be a formidable team moving forward. Number 2 for me is the Tampa Bay Lightning. This is a team got a few interesting questions to address in the offseason. Few contracts that they may need to work out going forward. Nikita Kucherov is a restricted free agent next year, so he'll be eligible for an extension come July 1st. Are they talking with him, working with him on trying to get an extension signed? And then you got the Rangers South defensive core that's coming up on free agency in the near future, either this year or next year. How they address that. They did win the Eastern Conference. Very good team. The core of their team is in place and ready to go. Great leadership with John Cooper, Steve Yzerman. This is a team that's always going to be in the discussions for competing for the Stanley Cup. Number 1 on my rankings is the Winnipeg Jets. I think this team is the most ready-built team to win the Stanley Cup. Their defense is great. Coaching is very good. Scheifele, Wheeler, Laine up front. The forwards are there. I think the most critical portion of their offseason plan is going to be re-signing Paul Stastny. If they're able to get that done, maybe go out and address another key free agent, in whatever they deem necessary to address. I think this is a team that's ready to go, ready to win right now. So there you have it. That's my inaugural power rankings. Hopefully I'm able to shorten these down a little bit going forward. Just wanted to go over kind of my thinking as I made the list and as I addressed it. But leave me know what you guys think in the comments below. Who is your power rankings? Who's your top 5? Who's your top 10? Where did I mess up? Where did I get it right? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.